Hello, the Divine Code reading for October 9th, pages 247 and 248. We are in the chapter, Practices that are Forbidden as Customs of Idol Worshippers. Topic number 11. It is forbidden to practice incantations, which is the uttering of foolish, abnormal words that have no purpose. And he believes that this foolishness, in his foolishness, that these things will have some effect. Some even say that if one says these things over a snake or scorpion, that it will not be able to cause harm. And that if one says something similar over a person, the person will not be harmed. There is a similar practice of one who holds a designated object, such as a key or stone, etc., in his hand while speaking in order to project a power onto his words. All such practices are forbidden. Likewise, it is forbidden for a person to sit opposite an incantationist and allow utterances to be over him, thinking that he has a benefit from these incantations. For by doing so, he participates in the rituals of incantation. So these are words that, or the incantations go back to some ancient awareness of something. But today we don't know what these words mean. We don't know why they did it. Therefore, it would be forbidden to use this. If we don't know why, and there's no logic and there's nobody today that can really explain it, then we're not allowed to rely upon something that would have been an ancient idol practice. Because basically these things would go back to idolatry, and therefore they would be forbidden. Topic number 12. It is permitted to whisper over a place where a snake or scorpion bit or stung a person, aside from incantations of idolatry. That's Muri Tractate Sanhedrin 68. In order to give the injured person peace of mind and assurance, even though this doesn't help in the slightest. It is forbidden for a psychological benefits because of the injected poison is dangerous. The Rambam, The Laws of the Worship of Stars and Idols, 11:11. Now these ancient rituals, they did actually work, except they're connected with idolatry and therefore they're forbidden. But in the case of a medical emergency, such as the snake bite, we would be permitted at that point to use these incantations because it's for saving a life, and therefore it would be permitted. Whether it's actually does something or if it's just a psychological benefit, the person feels better. You know, their great grandmother used to say these words, and it helps give them comfort. Or perhaps the words actually do something, but they're forbidden normally because of their association with idol worship, but for emergency purposes, they could be used. Topic number 13. Likewise, one who gathers snakes and scorpions or other animals or flies or mosquitoes and the like through whispering. This is an incantationist, and it is forbidden even if his intentions are to gather them into a desert or place where they cannot cause harm. So the person is doing a general thing. He's relying upon some ancient magic, Pied Piper thing, where he gets all the rats, or no, whatever it was. The Pied Piper does his incantation, and the animals follow him because of some ancient ritual. that would be forbidden. However, if they are chasing after him to harm him, it is permitted to cast a charm in order to save himself from them. Rashi on Tractate Sanhedrin 65a, Shulchan Aruch Yoreh De'ah, chapter 179, and Shach there. So if there's an immediate, just like the medical emergency, if there's an immediate need, a safety issue, a life-threatening issue, either for himself or I would suggest for other people. If there's an immediate need, that pushes aside the prohibition, and it would be permitted to use this incantation to make the animals leave. But under a normal circumstance, animals are as they're supposed to be. They function as they're supposed to. And okay, you can put out a mouse trap or something logical, but you cannot use, it would not be permitted for a person to use incantations in a general sense, only if it's an emergency situation. Topic number 14. How are the dead consulted? One practice of necromancy would be to consult them by fasting and then sleeping in a graveyard. So the dead person would appear to them in a dream and answer one's questions. There are others who consult with the dead by putting on specific clothes, burning incense, and sleeping in a graveyard alone. So the dead person would appear to them in a dream and speak to them. So there's different ways that people would contact the dead, communicate with the dead. And these are a couple examples of what was used in idolatrous rituals for contacting the dead. There are other ways also. These are just a couple that are used for examples. The general rule is that it is forbidden for one to do anything to make a dead person appear to them and answer his questions. Rambam also the worship of stars and idols, 11:11. Shulchan Aruch Yoreh De'ah 179. Similarly, any scientific investigations, seances, and the like, which include communicating with spirits of the dead, are forbidden. See Responsa Das Koon, chapter 69. So there's, there's pop culture, ghost hunting, and all that. That is forbidden. We're basically to leave all that alone. Whether it's seances or if it's these miscellaneous, fasting and sleeping in graveyards, that stuff is to be left alone. The dead is to be left alone. Topic number 15. It is the practice of idol worshippers to make a mark on themselves or a tattoo on their body as a sign of idol worship. That is to show that they are servants who are sold to the idol and marked for its service. It is also the practice to cut themselves with vessels or wound their bodies and to scratch themselves for their idols. Rambam, the Laws of the Worship of Stars and Idols, chapter 12, and Keshnef Mishnah there. On 1 Kings 18:28. All of these practices are rituals of idol worship, even though they are not its main rituals. And they are therefore forbidden as idolatrous practices if one intends it for idolatry. So these practices, if a person is doing it for idolatrous purposes, that's definitely forbidden. But even if the person is just mimicking these idolatrous practices, tattoos, other markings like brandings and that, things that mark the person for the idolatry. Now, what if the idolatrous rituals of a given time or a given community don't include these things? These are included in the Bible as being connected with idolatry, and therefore that would be an indication that it's for all time, that we should not do these things, whether or not it's specific in a community at a given time. Would not be a factor. One is generally forbidden to wound himself, with a few exceptions, such as circumcision or cosmetic surgery. This has gone into more detail in the prohibition against murder in a future part of the book. Generally speaking, we're not allowed to do things that are destructive to the body, unless there's a logical reason to do it. I mean, if the person needs an operation for medical purposes, it's an emergency, then he gets the operation. If there's a logical reason, but to get a tattoo when there's not a logical reason to do it would be considered a forbidden practice because of its association with idolatry. And also because it's unnecessary damage to the body. It is also forbidden for one to wear a specific garment that was worn by idol worshippers in the name of their idol, if he intends to do so for that purpose. So in this case, okay, in the case of the tattoos, we have two aspects. We have the aspect of the connection to idolatry, and the aspect of unnecessary damage to the body. Therefore, it would be forbidden for two reasons. In the case of the clothing, the prohibition is because of its connection to idolatry. Therefore, in a time and place when it's not connected to idolatry, then that clothing would be permitted for the person. But in a time and place where it's obvious that the person is doing it for idolatrous purposes, then it would be forbidden. Because in the case of clothing, there's one reason for the prohibition. In the case of tattoos, there's two reasons for the prohibition. Therefore, the tattoos is more broader in its application. The prohibition against tattoos is more broader. The prohibition against idolatrous style clothing would just have one reason. Therefore, it's more specific in regard to time and place. Thank you.